and I'm very excited to introduce our wonderful speaker for this month. I have been excited to have her on with us for quite a long time. We've been in conversation for a few months, but I think this month's theme of reflection is perfect. Rebecca started off as a freelance photographer. Her work is absolutely phenomenal, but after working very hard for many years, she decided to take a sabbatical in Japan. And that was when she came across the country's very first community library. And that got her really curious. And she started thinking, well, you know, there are community libraries in Singapore, but why have so few of them managed to survive? And why is it not a bigger thing here? And it also led her on the crazy idea of, well, what if I start one up myself? And it's been a really inspiring journey. She literally did one Instagram post to be like, hey, if I do this community library idea where people could rent shelves, you know, and members of the public can sign up for a membership fee and just come and borrow books, how would that work? Like, would anyone be interested? And her post blew up overnight. And then within a few weeks and months, she has got a space. She's rented a space. The library is now located near IKEA in Alexandra. And it's been an absolute whirlwind of a journey. And I hope that today's event will be a chance for her to reflect on her own journey over the last few months of making this all happen. And I would love to welcome Rebecca. So without further ado, please put your hands together.
I was hiding behind because there are a lot of people here today. But thank you for coming. So this is an emotional looking photo of myself. Okay, I'm more cheerful than that usually. Okay, so my name is Rebecca and I'm the accidental founder of this library called Casual Poet Library. And our tagline is actually called In No Great Hurry. Right, but you'll find out, you will experience the great irony in our story today. Okay, because we started our library in record time, in a matter of like 3 months. Okay, so today I'm just going to bring you through our little journey, I guess, of how we built this library. So this is a photo of our library, right in the middle there. Okay, so we're in Alexandra Village. Does anybody know where Alexandra Village is? Right, anybody went to our library before? Not yet. Okay, some of you, okay? So this is our library. It's in a lovely little neighborhood called Alexandra Village. And we're surrounded by like 50-year-old furniture stores and cafes, confectionaries. It's a lovely little neighborhood in the heartlands. Okay, so this is a close-up of our library. It looks like this. And, sorry. Okay, so I just want to explain a little bit about how our library works, right? So you look at the shelves in the library. Every shelf in this library is actually rented by a different individual, right? So people actually pay money and you rent a shelf and you get to curate your own books, you get to decorate your shelf, you get to basically express yourself through the shelf. Okay, so I will explain a little bit about how I came upon this idea later on. Right, so our library, our shared library is open and everyone is welcome. Okay, so if you ever come to Alexandra Village, you can step into the library, you don't have to pay. But if you do want to borrow books, you have to pay $25 per year, right? And you get to borrow like 5 books and bring it home. And the special thing about our library is that it's volunteer run, right? So a roster of volunteers actually keep our library open 6 days a week, okay, from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Okay, so let's go right to the beginning, right, of how this library started. So I'm actually a photographer. I'm a commercial and advertising photographer, and I have been doing photography for the last 10 years of my life. Okay, so in my 11th year, I decided, okay, maybe I'll take a sabbatical, right, because I've been working really hard. And I decided that I would take a whole year off and maybe write a book. And I would go to Japan to do that. Right? And that was how I ended up in this little Japanese fishing town called Yaizu. Anybody been to Shizuoka before? No? So Yaizu is in Shizuoka, and I didn't really want to go to Yaizu, right? Because Yaizu is pretty far from where I was. right? But I wanted to go there to meet a friend that I had not seen for 10 years. Okay, so that was how I ended up in Yaizi. And one of the first things that my friend said to me when I saw him in Yaizi was, he said, there's a little library around the corner, and I think you might like it. Right? And in my head, I was thinking, you know, like, I love libraries, but, you know, like, what could be so special about this library? So then he brought me to this old shopping street in Yaizi. And and then he brought me to this library, and I stepped in, and I was quite amazed, basically, because I found out how this library works, right? So apparently, people actually pay money to rent a shelf. And that boggled my Singaporean mind, right? In a way that, what do you mean people pay money to rent a shelf? You know, like, shouldn't they be paid to, okay. So anyway. Yeah, so I can't read Japanese, right? So I couldn't read any of the books on the shelves. I also couldn't read, you know, the little notes that were placed around the library. But I could sense the energy of the space. And I could feel this deep desire of the shelf owners to connect. Right? And I remember thinking, oh my god, I would love to do this in Singapore. Right? Because this is such a crazy, impractical, idealistic, dreamy thing to do. And I'm exactly that kind of human, you know. But then I thought, how many Singaporeans would actually do this? Okay? So this is how the shelves look like, right? So this was in April this year. And then I came back to Singapore, and I couldn't get the thought out of my head, you know. I talked to my friends, and I was like, hey, do you all think that people will be willing to do this together? Then they said, I don't really know, you know, like Singapore is different from Japan. So then, sometime in mid-May, I decided to write a very simple Instagram post, right? Just to check interest levels. I just wanted to see, if nobody responds to my Instagram post, right, then I will drop the idea. But then if maybe like I could somehow get 50 people on board, right, maybe I would give this a try. So then I spent like 5-10 minutes just writing an Instagram post, you know, and I tried to explain this idea, and I tried to, you know, show some pictures that I saw. Try to show some of the pictures that I took in Japan. Okay, so what happened next was that the post kind of went semi-viral, and hundreds of people sent me direct messages saying that, yes, I will put down money to do this with you. Okay, and to be very honest, right, I did tear a little bit that night, right? I cried a little bit. It wasn't the quantity of the messages. It wasn't that. It was the content of the messages. Like, I could feel in people this deep desire to do something, right? I could feel a lot of like unspent passion and energy from Singaporeans who are like, you know, like, I've been waiting for a chance to do something like that, you know, so let's do it. I love books, right? So that very night, so this was May 16, right? That very night, I decided that, okay, 300 people messaged me and said that, yes, I'm willing to seriously put down money. So then I thought if 50% of the people actually showed up, we have a chance of doing something like this in Singapore. So the very next day, okay? So things happen really fast, yeah? Even though our tagline is in no great hurry, but I'll explain about that later. Okay, so the very next day I started to hunt for a shop space, right? And I had an idea of kind of where I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be Bukit Merah. I don't know why. I just thought it's kind of central, but kind of also off central, so it's not really right in the middle of town. Okay, I wanted it to be in the heartlands and everything. So anyway, people started sending me a lot of like, oh, you know, you should go and see this space, it's empty. And on the third day, I saw this shop front, and it ticked my list, basically. I wanted it to be in the heartlands. I wanted it to be on the ground level so that anyone can walk by and, you know, like, just go in. And I needed a toilet in this space, right? Because, you know, if you read for a long time, if you want to spend time in a place, you need a toilet. Also, the size wasn't too big or too small. So it's about 450 square feet. Yeah? Then got hawker centers around. So I really liked the space, and I thought, okay, maybe this is the one, right? Okay, I will share a very quick serendipitous story here. Okay, so 6 months ago, I was actually in this neighborhood, but then being like almost like a direction idiot, right? I didn't know that I was in this neighborhood. And while I was in this neighborhood, I fell in love with this place, and I told my friend Amos, and I said, hey, you know, if I ever open a bookshop, right, I have to open in this neighborhood. Okay, but I completely forgot about that. So when I came here on the 3rd day of my post, I didn't know I was in the same neighborhood, but I called the agent and I said, okay, I think I'm going to rent this space. Then I saw the cafe that I was at 6 months ago. So it was a bit of a goosebumps moment, and I thought, okay, the universe is trying to give birth to this thing, right? Okay, then on the 4th day, I signed the lease. Okay, because there are a lot of scams online nowadays, right? So it is very possible that this is a scam, right? I mean, so far nobody has used books to scam people, I think. But then I thought, okay, I really want people to know that I'm serious about this thing, you know? And also I think the other reason is because we need enough people to get this going, right? If I only had like 10 people on board, I don't think I would be able to afford the rent. I need at least about 120 people on board. So I thought, okay, if I sign the lease, use my own money, and pay the down payment, I would convince people that I was serious about this. And then they wouldn't, I mean, to use a very colloquial word, they wouldn't pang-seh me, you know. That they wouldn't stand me up, right? They would think that, oh, this poor person, she already put her money down, so I would better go and support. One of the things that kept ringing in my head, right, was this phrase, if not now, when, right? Because there are a lot of times when we stall our dreams and we think, oh, there must be a better time to do this, right? But there are also moments in life where things fall into place and it feels like there's total alignment. And this was one of those moments where it just felt like everything was coming together, right? So if not now, when? So what happened is after I signed the lease, right, the rental was supposed to kick in soon, so, and that is the reason why I had to get things started, right? Because I found the perfect space. And from the moment I put out the Instagram post, I got a lot of messages from people from all over, like pledging the support and also saying that, hey, I got all these skills, you know, I can do this and that. Please use me. So this is Sean, okay? So he's one of the people who messaged me quite early on. And he said, oh, you know, I'm a trained architect. Then I was a bit like, is this a scam? no, because we're all strangers, right? And the post kind of did go semi-viral, so there were a lot of strangers and they didn't know me, I didn't know them. So he said he's a trained architect, so I went to see his Instagram. And then he said he builds things, right? Like he can make furniture and stuff. So I also checked his Instagram, make sure. And then somehow I feel like, okay, I think this guy is legitimate, right? Got photos of his kid and everything. So then Sean, so then we met up at a cafe in this neighborhood called Rookies. And we hit it off, and then I think Sean has been instrumental in this journey because he really is a trained architect, right, turns out. He can make things, right? So, early on it was a very conscious intention to include the community in building the space, right? So Sean has the ability to build things and to teach people how to make things. So this is a photo of us like building the floor together. Okay, so what happened was that we did call-outs and a lot of people volunteered at the time, right? And these people are the ones who express interest in like being a bookshop owner, or they're just simply people who like follow us on Instagram, right? So then they came out when we said that, okay, we want to make the floor together. And then they also make like table, chair. So then I realized that Singaporeans are really talented and they're also very generous with their time. Okay, so within about less than 2 months, actually, the space went from this to this, like the shelves came up. Thank you. Okay, and this is how our library looks like now, right? We have opened for about a month. So it's been about 4 months since I put out the Instagram post. And it just feels like we've been here forever. Really, it's one of those things in life that feels so natural. Okay, so I love this idea that was put forth by Cormac Russell. So he's basically like a champion for like community development, sustainable community development. So then he said, community is a verb, not a noun, right? So what he means is that, you know, like community is not just a name that you give to a group of people and then you just say they are a community, right? Community is something that you do, right? It's when a group of people come together and they offer their skills, their talents, and especially their time, right, and effort. And they actually build something together, okay? And I think that is community. Okay, so this is a photo of some of our volunteer librarians. We actually have about 40 people who volunteer to be librarians. No, actually we have about 300 people who volunteer to be librarians. But we only have slots for about 40, so half of them are like regular librarians, some of them are ad hoc librarians who take over when the regular ones can't make it. Okay, so I think Comet's idea of community being a verb is really powerful, because when people really put in the time and the effort to do something, to build something together, right, they actually feel a deeper sense of connection, right, and a sense of belonging to the place. And I think this is the reason why building our community, right, like it feels like we have built a pretty strong community in just a matter of 3 months. And when I say like the word community, right, it really just means like friends. You know, people who became friends and started hanging out. People that you meet and you feel like you have known them for years, or there are people who I have met that I feel like, hey, how come I wish I had met you earlier? Where have you been like my whole life, right? So I want to quote Yi Si, who is one of our volunteer librarians, and she said, in light of many physical bookstores closing down in Singapore, with rising costs as one of the main factors, I've been thinking that perhaps we don't always have to try to make things work on our own. When there are enough people who care just a little, to put in just a little, it's possible to make many dreams happen at once. Okay, so since building this library, I have heard from a lot of people. I mean, they've asked the variations of the same question. What is that? 10 minutes left. Okay, 5 minutes. Okay, so people have asked me the variations of the same question, which is, can you survive, right? And you know, like right from the beginning, okay, I'm a photographer, right? I'm a creative, so I'm not very good with numbers. But before taking this leap of faith, I did the sums, right? And also from the last 10 years of being in the creative industry, I realized that it's really important that we're able to sustain our dreams. You know, like a dream can't exist, you know, just in the clouds. We need money, especially in Singapore. So today, I'm going to break it down for you, how much money we spent and how much we earn. I mean, this is important information, okay? So our library can actually max out, take about 180 shelves, around there, right? If we are so lucky to be able to rent out all 180 shelves at $45 per month each, okay, we actually have a monthly revenue of about $8,000. Okay, some shelves are slightly more or less expensive because it depends on how long you rent it for, like 6 months or 1 year. So, okay, our monthly revenue, okay, my math should be correct. Okay, our monthly revenue is $8,000. Okay, our monthly overhead is $5,000. This includes rental, utilities, and some other random costs. But there is a buffer built in, so our actual overhead is actually about $4,200. Okay, but I built in a buffer because buffers are great, right, in case anything happens. So we actually have a monthly profit of $3,000, and over the course of 1 year, our annual profit is $36,000. And I think that is actually a pretty good buffer for a community space like that, right? But this being our startup year, we actually spend quite a lot of money, right? The shelves are expensive. Aircon unit is $5,000 per unit, right, in Singapore. So we spent about $50,000 actually setting up the space, but we crowdfunded $20,000. So our cost is actually $30,000 this year to start up, which is covered by our annual profit lah. And this doesn't include like library membership subscriptions, right, which is $25 per year per person. Sorry if there's too much numbers. Okay, it doesn't also count like event rental fees. So I think we have built in quite a bit of buffer, right? And I think to the question of can we survive, I think we can, right? But then there are also people who ask, oh, you know, what if interest fizzles out, right? And to that my answer is, if it fizzles out, it fizzles out, right? At the moment, there is a momentum, and there are a lot of people interested in this thing, in being part of this project. So I think while there is interest, we will do it, right? And if one day we fizzle out, it doesn't matter. Okay, so we have about another 180 people on the waiting list. And I think there is great interest in people to see this space survive, but not just to see it survive. I think people generally want to be part of this. It's not a charity thing, like, oh, I hope that you can continue to be here. I think we are here because there is a need for a space like this. Okay, so one of the things that I always ask myself is, what do we want Singapore to look and feel like, right? So as Singaporeans, we do have some words that we use, 2 minutes left, okay? We do have some words to describe Singapore, right? I don't know what words you guys have in mind, but some of the words that people throw out are like, Singapore is sterile, boring, soulless, mercenary, cynical, words, scary words like that. So the library that I went to in Japan, the founder, is called Junya Dohi. He actually coined this phrase called private public. It's a very simple idea. It's basically just individuals like us, right? We come together and we create something for the public, which is basically just our neighbors and friends to come and enjoy, to use and to share. Okay, and I think this is a really powerful idea, right? Because then we are not waiting for the government or from top down to basically transform the city that we want to live in. Right? We create the city that we want to live in, right? So, since starting the library, Singapore looks slightly different to me now. Okay, and it's because of the people who walk in through our doors. They let me experience a different Singapore. And I will use these words to describe how I think of Singapore, right? Generous, warm, open, kind, joyful, and trusting, right? Trusting because people borrow our books back, and then they have to return. Okay, and an example of these words, right, would be people who, they borrow books, right, and we have like a, what do you call that, like a due date to return the books, but we have no late fees, okay, but people rush to come back and return the books. They're like, okay, my book is due soon, so they, okay. Yeah, so and also volunteer librarians who, really dedicate their time, and they see it as a personal responsibility to uphold the library. And I think that every time you build a community, right, that is based on non-transactionary values, these are the kind of things that happen. It's not unique to the library. Okay, so beyond Singapore, actually, I think, small actions can so-called change the world. I mean, it's always the small actions, right? So Usrat is from Dhaka, Bangladesh. And I don't know whether some of you guys know, but Bangladesh went through a revolution recently. And basically, their students toppled the government. So Usrat is one of the students in Dhaka, and she really wants to build a library that is similar to ours in Dhaka, so that to support the students there, right, and to share knowledge. So then we are happy to share everything that we know about building a library with her. And hopefully, this will spread the seed of this idea. And I think what is so powerful about this idea, which we don't have a patent on, right, and hopefully it can go all around the world, is the fact that it really just answers some of the most powerful urges in a human being, which is really just this desire to connect, okay, and to be seen and accepted. It's really very, very simple. Okay, so to end the talk, I want to share this quote by Olivia, who is one of our library patrons, and she said, "In this city, we are taught that nothing can afford to exist without profit. Yet here is this space, existing solely for the sharing of love. It is a hopeful space, and I hope that it will last. And I truly hope that our library will last as well." Thank you.